You are now rocking with the best. This is the Hall About Sports podcast with your host, the one and only Meg Hall. If you don't know, now you know. Welcome to episode 17. I got co-host Kev with me, and I have a very, very dear friend of mine, a phenomenal person. And by the way, he's something slight of a broadcast journalist, just something light. Danny Thompson has joined us, and I'm so grateful. Danny, thank you for being on with Kevin and I. Coming to hang out.
I've been waiting for this opportunity to come on the show. I've been waiting for my invite. Meg finally sent me the invite, Kev, and I had to track her down in my group chat.
You're just gonna out me like that on the podcast, okay? Here. So in true fashion, like I told Danny at the time, I was like, please, please, please charge it to my head and not my heart. He knows how I feel about him. He's a good friend. Like it was not intentional, but yeah,
he was
definitely
upset that I was making Dallas Stars jokes. That's what happened in the playoffs. That's what happened.
That's probably true. Honestly, I was a little hurt over my Stars. I'm not even gonna lie.
You didn't get swept. My Hurricanes got swept.
Now, true, very true. I didn't, and to be fair, I think I didn't say anything about that in the group chat because I was like, that's probably not a good topic.
As a Montreal Canadiens fan, I had to just leave that one alone. I'm like, listen, I have no room to talk to anybody whose team made it this far.
Listen, my wife constantly laughs at me because she goes, your teams all suck for the most part. I'm a Hornets fan. I'm a Hurricanes fan. Hurricanes is the only team that wins anything. I'm a Falcons fan in football. I'm a Mets fan in baseball. Like, I don't win much of anything.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry about that. And speaking of not winning things, you're probably not going to win today either. So let's hop right into the run of show. Just had to pull one in there. All right. So run a show for tonight. So we're going to do the starting lineup. So we're going to tell us how you got into journalism, how you got into basketball. If you weren't covering basketball, would you cover another sport? We'll talk about that. I think you just mentioned Falcons. I'm so sorry to you. All right. The special segment that we created for you is called, Is This a Flagrant? So what it is, I like a good pun. So I'm definitely going to throw them in there. But this is all about basketball. I promised Danny we would not talk NBA draft, so we will not. Just side note, that is Thursday. Other than that, last segment is the post-game presser where you get to ask us questions and we'll answer them. We've gotten really fun ones like, is cereal soup? What's your life's theme song? For Kev, it's, Arms Wide Open with Creed. Whatever you feel like asking, we will usually try to answer. We like to keep it fun and light. So we'll be thinking. I actually have a question for you too that I think you'll actually like when we get to that segment.
Let's do it.
So, all right. So starting lineup, tell us, how did you get to this point? How did you, one, become a basketball fan? And two, how did you become a journalist?
So this actually was kind of funny. So my birthday is June 1st. So I just turned 40. So I was born.
Belated.
Thank you. So I was born during the 1983 NBA Finals. My dad coached basketball in the military. My mom had the biggest crush on Dr. J. So living in Hawaii, where it's a 6-hour time zone difference, and also when basketball was tape delayed, I broke my mom's water, and then we were on the way to the hospital. My mom refused to leave the house until she finished watching the Sixers game. So this is the 1980s, so you don't really get TVs inside the delivery room. So at that point, I didn't come out until after the game was over. And at that point, that's when basketball was born into me, as I was literally coming out the womb. My mom and my dad always told me that their first memory of me in sports was drooling on a sports page at 8 months old. I was drooling on a sports page. So I did sports has been part of my DNA ever since. Kids go outside and play. I played sports as a kid, but kids go outside and go run and play. And I'm in the house watching ESPN when ESPN actually had programming on during the day, building Lego stadiums, thinking I'm watching NFL Yearbook as a kid. So with my dad being a basketball fan and being a basketball coach, our Friday nights were spent watching TNT games when it was, just old school TNT, and watching the Atlanta Hawks on TBS and watching the Chicago Bulls on WGN on Saturdays. That was me and my dad's bonding time. Basketball's been part of my life. And so I played as a child, and I peaked growing wise right around the 8th or 9th grade. I was a power forward, and then when you realize you cannot be a 5'11" power forward in college, a 5'11" inch, 5'11" with a Zach Randolph vertical leap, you're not going to make it to the places. So I was
this resonates with me.
Yeah, I was a writer. I always passed English classes. I remember going to Winston-Salem State University, illustrious of Stephen A. Smith, of course. And I remember writing all my English papers in college based on basketball. Like I literally wrote every paper in college and turned it into a basketball form whatsoever.
Wow.
And I did that, and I turned into a journalist. I couldn't play the sport, but I knew I could talk about it. And so at that point, no, Mike, I wasn't Charles Barkley. I told you I had a 4-inch vertical leap. Like I can shoot the basketball, but I could barely jump over a Pop-Tart. So it's not, this wasn't going to work this way. So I remember writing all my papers in college on basketball, and it turned into writing. And so I really got into writing when I left college in 2003. 2004 is when the Bobcats got here. So a Real GM first, like literally was just a blogging site. That's how long ago it was. I was writing a Real GM covering the Bobcats. I covered an NFL site for a site called NFL Draft Blitz. My very first professional interview was actually Dwayne Brown, the offensive lineman.
Nice.
It was actually, we had conversation on AOL Messenger, and it turned into a phone conversation that was long distance on my mother's phone that I had to pay long distance minutes, so I had to lie about a call to Blacksburg, Virginia. So, sorry, Mom. So I remember doing those things, and it turned into me writing for a while. I moved to Florida, and I took some time off from writing after my brother passed away. I had a lifelong dream of going into sports, but then what kid in the 90s didn't play video games? So I grew up playing video games. I played NBA Live as a child. I just realized I wanted to make video games. I wanted to do sports games. I'm the kid drawing in class, and thinking I'm okay, create this great game. And I moved to Orlando, and like 2.5 years later, I worked for EA Sports. So I worked designing video games for the NBA Live series, of course. I did player ratings, rosters, playbooks, all those wonderful things. Worked on franchise mode for the series for 2 years. So, like, if you ever picked up NBA Jam on Fire Edition and you actually paid the updated version and you played with the New Orleans Hornets, just know that they're a complete cheat code after the trade of Ryan Anderson, because between Ryan Anderson and Hugo the Hornet, they're both perfect 10s in the three-point line, and they don't miss. So I had the ability to help with that. So, yeah, you win money off that, by the way. But I grew into a data person. I knew stats. I love sports. I love breaking down plays. So working on signature moves and playbooks was beautiful. After I was laid off because of NIL back in the day, which was the Ed O'Bannon case. So I lost my job due to the Ed O'Bannon case, which was the beginning of NIL back in 2013, right before NBA Live 13 actually released. I got back into journalism again, and this when podcasting first started. So, big shout out to my friends at Barbershop Sports. They gave me an opportunity at platform. After I started, and big shout outs to Randy Azalea and Backpage Sports for getting my first credential covering the Magic. I covered the Magic for 3.5 seasons. I had a radio show in Orlando called Full Court Press Radio that was nationally syndicated on iHeartRadio, and also a flagship station in the Orlando Magic. I did that for about 1.5 2 years, but covered the Magic for 4 years for multiple sites. Moved to Charlotte, covered the Hornets for the current site right for, which is three-point conversion, and kept my own stuff on the side. And now I'm in this space. Actually do my works now through Substack. I do the occasional podcast, and it's covering the league for the last 14, 15 years. It's been beautiful. I've seen the league change a lot. I have stories, and my wife tells me all the time it's time to write a book on some of the things you hear in locker rooms, because I got some stories about locker rooms, but I don't know. I might tell them one day. Who knows?
Oh boy. Okay. So before I follow up with comments, Mike is in the comments and he said, ask Danny about 3 guys from 3 different cities who met at Tilted Kilt. Is this podcast appropriate? Is what I want to ask, because I feel like Danny just put his hands over his face and he's like, oh no.
So that's the first time I actually met Mike Patton and Kyle Nash together. So me and Kyle lived in Orlando. And Mike came to visit. So all 3 of us met at the Tilted Kilt down on iDrive.
Okay, yeah, I know about iDrive. Yeah.
So if you ever been to the Tilted Kilt, it is kind of like, okay, if we're going to put this on platforms, right? If we're doing it on the Banana Republic Old Navy scale, right? Old Navy is considered Hooters, and Tilted Kilt is more like, I would say, the Gap. So it's an upgraded version of Hooters. The only thing is the women wear skirts and kilts.
Yeah.
It's the Irish version of It's just that it's the upgraded version. So we all met over wings, and it was complete laughter. It was the first time I met Mike, and Kyle and I had crossed paths in other ways, but we had all got together for the first time. It was pretty damn hilarious. Thanks, Mike.
All right. So it sounds to me like you have lived, you've eaten, you've slept basketball for the last 15 years. What moment are you most grateful for throughout all of that?
The most grateful moment is when, wow, if I have to think about it, it's really being in the locker rooms and telling stories. There's one thing from, just to hear players talk, but the best part about it is there's so many stories you hear when you don't have a microphone in the player's face, where you're just talking to a player candidly one-on-one, and they realize you're not trying to put them on blast, and they really tell stories to you, or you can just really see it. I think my favorite moment is when my daughter came to a game with a credential on. So she actually wore a credential. She had a chance. She talks about to this day, going to the game and eating the popcorn in the media section, the media room, and having a hot dog and just wearing the same badge that her dad wears. When you put a credential on, it's a thing of honor. But see your kids see you do it, it's more amazing. I think that's one of my most favorite parts of being a journalist, was just taking her with me to a game. And big shout out to Orlando Magic for letting it happen, because it was the night actually of the Boston Celtics game when my daughter got to meet a very close friend of mine that same night. So it was kind of like a catch-22 great moment all at the same time. So it made out for perfect everything that night. So
I love that. That is awesome. I don't think you often hear about things like that, and I love when organizations do those kinds of things, like letting kids kind of be behind the scenes. I know the NFL has recently, doubled down on that a lot more, where you're seeing kid reporters out there, interviewing athletes and whatnot. So I absolutely love that. That's awesome that you got to share that moment with her. Um, and yeah, kudos to the Magic for making that happen.
yeah, but it's always love with that organization. The good, the bad. I watched the team lose over 130 games in my 4 years at home, so it was a lot. But but as far as the front office goes, it's an amazing front office, amazing staff, the ones that are still left, and the people that went away. So no, I have so many stories, like I said, but it's been more than basketball. Those opportunities of basketball opened up ways for me to cover the NFL. It's all for me to cover college basketball. I've covered college football. I've covered women's soccer. I've covered MLS. So it's opened up doors for many of other opportunities. So basketball provides so much, and I will always get back to it. It's my sport.
And speaking of it being your sport,
Yeah.
we are going to transition to probably the best part of the podcast for you and for Kev. So this section of the podcast is called Is That a Flagrant? So we're going to ask you several questions that could be ruled a flagrant foul. So I'm going to start with a little softball, because I think this is really good considering what just happened. My question to you is, can the Denver Nuggets repeat? And if they do you consider them to be a dynasty? And I want to throw out some stats at you before you answer that question, because I thought this was pretty insane that this happened. Let me pull this up so that I can speak to it. So, all right. In game 1 of this finals, Jokic had 27 points. He had 41 in game 2. Jamal Murray had 34 in game 3. Aaron Gordon had 27. And then Jokic had 28 in game 5. Rebounding going on as well. Some 11 game 1, some 13 rebounds, 16, 21. And then you get down to some of these percentages, which are absolutely insane. Jokic was shooting 58%, Aaron Gordon 60%. These are absolutely insane, kind of stats to know that this was happening on Miami Heat's watch. But I just thought it was interesting that also random stat that I saw was that Jokic had 70 rebounds, which is crazy. 70. And 61 of those were defensive rebounds. So, of course, he broke all kinds of other records as well during this finals. But wanted to pose a question out to you, and I'll read it again. Can the Denver Nuggets repeat? And if they do you consider them to be a dynasty? And Danny, I'll go to you first.
Can they repeat? The answer is it's yes, but it's yes with a complete asterisk beside it. And here's the asterisk beside the yes. The Denver Nuggets need to re-sign Bruce Brown. Because Bruce Brown, as we learned throughout the playoffs, and if you've watched the Brooklyn Nets, you watch his entire journey into the NBA, has turned himself into the ultimate weapon. Okay, he came in the league as a point guard, all right? Had to learn how to play other positions, and even played a small ball center as a Brooklyn Net before he ended up in Denver. His ability to guard multiple positions on the court, we saw Jamal Murray get in foul trouble some games, Jamal Murray not hitting shots. What happens? Bruce Brown comes in and plays point guard. When KCP got in foul trouble, and I think it was in game 3, guess what? You put Bruce Brown in the ball game right next to Jamal Murray. When Michael Porter Jr. couldn't hit a shot halfway through the majority of the series, what happens? When he couldn't become unplayable, Bruce Brown stepped in at the 3. The only thing Bruce Brown really didn't do in the series was play for the Colorado Rockies. That's the only thing he didn't do the entire series. And so with Bruce Brown being a free agent and knowing that the contract is waiting for him, if Stan Kroenke, which he should, go into the tax to make it done, they're going to repeat. Because Nikola Jokic is basically almost unguardable, and now that he's got the championship ring, the pressure's off of him. Jamal Murray, we get to see Jamal Murray for back-to-back seasons. Mm-hmm. Remember, we haven't seen that since pre-bubble. And one of the things that turned Denver from a contender to a championship-level team is Jamal Murray's mid-range game in the playoffs. Going into the final series against the LA Lakers, against the Miami Heat, he hit more shots and had a better percentage from the mid-range than he did at the rim, and took just as many attempts. That turnaround step back mid-range shot has turned into an art form for him, and he's got confidence. The one thing Nikola Jokic is more dangerous is, I've never seen a player in a while do this, is he's more dangerous giving the ball to others than scoring for himself.
Yes. The
only way Miami teams can beat the Denver Nuggets is you make Jokic go for 40. It's almost to the old Shaq theory. You basically let Shaq get 50 and you shut everybody else down. Because Nikola Jokic plays basketball like people play 2K. It's that when he passes the ball to a teammate, it's like an extra boost, and the shot goes in more likely when he's passing the ball. Players are completely smarter when he's on the court. Aaron Gordon became an actual offensive weapon because of Nikola Jokic. I watched Gordon for years in Orlando, and I promise you, through 4 head coaches, they couldn't figure out how to do it. But Nikola Jokic and Mike Malone makes this guy almost worth every penny when people thought he wasn't worth the pennies he was given in Orlando. So the Nuggets so they can repeat. If they win a second championship, this is going to get ugly. Because every time there's been a dominant center winning a championship, this thing can go for a while. It really depends on the makeup of the team. But in this case, Denver's all signed long-term. Joker just signed the extension. Jamal Murray's in the middle of the extension. Michael Porter Jr. got paid. Aaron Gordon got paid. KCP is good. Christian Braun is a rookie on a rookie contract in the second round. Now, I mean, you got to find a way to replace 97-year-old Jeff Green. But, and 312-year-old DeAndre Jordan, but you'll find pieces to handle that. So, yes, I think they can, but Bruce Brown resigning back in Denver is the key. So, if they do it, then a dynasty could be in the hands of the Nuggets.
Wow. So, Kev, I just want you to just realize what we just witnessed. It was like a full-blown switch. The switch came off, and he's like, "Ooh, basketball! Boom! Here's all the stats."
Oh yeah, and meanwhile, I switched into bobblehead mode. I'm like, yes, yes, I agree with this.
Yes, tell me more.
I will say, I agree with a lot of this, and the Bruce Brown thing. Please, Denver, do not make the mistake that the Nets made, because I was lamenting it did not get nearly enough attention when Bruce Brown left in the offseason to go to Denver, how big of a piece he was. And he has improved his game. As you pointed out, he can hit these open threes now. He guards multiple positions. I do think it's very important that they re-sign him, but I am also all in on a repeat. I am not certain exactly which team it's going to be that gives Denver their best run going into next season, because it's going to need to be a team that has front court depth, plays good defense, and plays good team offense as well. And I'm not exactly, when I look at the upper echelon on the East and I look at the change in coaching and all of that stuff, I'm not so certain that Denver's biggest challenge won't be in their own conference this year. So right now, I would say, yes, they are. I mean, obviously, with what's going on in Phoenix, that's got to get a lot of people's attention. I don't know if we're going to talk about that one later, but I need to see more before I'm ready to say, oh, yeah, Phoenix is going to be right there at the top. Who knows? But I think it's Denver's to win next year. And after 2, I'd be okay here in the dynasty talk. I don't know, because things could have been a lot different if Jamal Murray had not been injured. So it's one of those things, like, we shouldn't discredit how good this team has been for some time. So I would hear the dynasty talk as well after a repeat.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing with Denver, it really is, of course, you always got to say health. Health is important for any team in the finals. Just make a type of a championship run. And the Western Conference, more and more, just seems like everybody just wants to do super teams. It's like everybody just wants to get together. Meg's down in Atlanta. One of my favorite rap songs from T.I. is like, maybe we can get together, maybe we can beat them. It's just like, it's just like, when T.I. said that, now it makes sense because everybody wants to jump on everybody's bandwagon at this point. And ironically, Denver just did it organically. And I think it's going to take a team that's organic, that's going to be able to do it. There are some teams that are really more under the radar that can cause Denver more problems than the teams at the top level of the Western Conference, because the only team that you thought that you'd be scared of, which would be the 2 teams, which is the LA Lakers and the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors might end up losing Draymond Green, and the Denver Nuggets punched LeBron James in the face in the conference finals. And Anthony Davis is not ready to be that guy. So there's a whole bunch of answers. And until you beat the man, you got to beat him. So I'm taking Denver over the field next year already.
Yeah, the funny thing is when you mention about doing it organically, there's another team that's done it organically, my San Antonio Spurs. But my Spurs are not great, of course, right now. But in previous seasons, done things organically, and they were largely, praised for doing it that way. Not building these, quote unquote super teams. I will say this: the West is in my opinion harder to come out of, right? Like the competition is much more stiff out of the West. And I think at this moment, I'm not really sure that there's anybody who's going to stop anybody in the East. So yeah, the competition would be coming out of the West. The way the Nuggets played in the finals was really beautiful basketball. It was fluid. They were spacing the floor out. You see that ball movement. You see Jokic being a facilitator, which is where he's the most dangerous at. And the thing is, like, I mean, athleticism be darned. Jokic was just knocking shots down. Like he's not going to wow anyone with the athleticism, but he's so quick in terms of his turnaround shots, and his ability to get up over you and extend over you. And that by the time you've realized what's happening, like he's already scored and he's back down the court and you're like, well, what just happened? Yeah. So, it was a thing of beauty to really see, honestly.
That soundboard shuffle shot, which, it seems like he's just going backwards, taking 3 steps, he's doing, the electric slide / the shot slide 1 step, and goes in every time. And the other part is, the dribble handoff is coming. Yeah. If Joker's at the top of the key, Jamal Murray's coming. The dribble handoff's coming, and Joker, you're not going to run through Joker on a screen. It's not happening. But what happens? It works every time. It's like clockwork. I don't know what it is. It's something about how Joker and those guys do it. It's an amazing way of doing it. And the crazy part is Michael Porter Jr. wasn't accurate
at all.
If he was on point, this series was a sweep. You got to give credit to KCP for being the complete veteran. And I love one of the stories about when they drafted Christian Braun. They wanted a kid that had championship pedigree, that knew how to win in college. So that was one of the reasons why they drafted Christian Braun, because they wanted winners.
Yep, moment wouldn't be too big for him.
You can't go wrong with a team saying, we want to draft winners.
I mean, hey, I'll take it. I'll take it. All right, so let's speaking of winners, Danny, you're just giving me all these kinds of great like transitions, which I love it. I love it. I love it. Speaking of winners, the Phoenix Suns were a big winner this week. So in case you've been living underneath a rock, there's this massive trade that goes down. So Bradley Beal is now with the Phoenix Suns. And what happened in this trade is Bradley Beal goes to the Suns, Jordan Goodwin goes to the Suns, Isaiah Todd goes. The Wizards get back Chris Paul momentarily, we'll see. You get Landry Shamet, multiple second round picks, and multiple pick swaps. So my question to you is, there's talk of Chris Paul potentially reuniting with the Clippers, but I can imagine a scenario where that doesn't happen, and the scenario that tried to happen years ago, which was Chris Paul to the Lakers, I'm wondering, should he instead be a Laker at this point? Because remember years ago, like the league blocked this, Chris Paul, Chris Paul, Kobe Bryant didn't get that opportunity, but is there an opportunity now where he could go to the Lakers? Kev, I'll go to you first.
Oh, that's a tough one. They both have the same problem to me. So I have a hard time deciding which one I would pick if I were Chris Paul. Because no matter what, you're reliant upon the health of either LeBron and AD or Kawhi and Paul George, which for each team, I guess more so for the Clippers, right? It's been their health. And Chris Paul has that same issue, unfortunately, right? Where health is the biggest concern that you have with Chris Paul is how many games are we going to get out of him? And at this point, in my opinion, I would this is not a one-to-one comparison, so forgive me for the name I'm about to mention here, but maybe I see Chris Paul doing what we've seen Rondo do later in his career, where maybe he's not necessarily a starter anymore until the playoffs. He's maybe someone who is finishing. He's on that last 5-minute unit, something like that, just because I don't know how many games he has in him in a full season. So if I'm Chris Paul, the last place I want to go is another place that might be reliant upon me to carry a heavy workload for a big portion of the season because my other stars are out. So I feel like this is kind of a cop-out answer. If I were him, I wouldn't be going to either LA spot. If it's just about getting a championship and setting yourself up for success, I'd be looking elsewhere. But I'm just worried about those injuries.
I think for me, the best place is the Clippers more than the Lakers. And here's the thing, because Chris Paul needs to have the ball in his hands. And with the Lakers, that's LeBron James. Then you're going to run into a whole situation like they did with Russell Westbrook, and you're going to be confused. The only difference is that Chris Paul can actually hit an open jump shot. Westbrook hits the side of the backboard. It is what it is. But I think he works best with the Clippers because here's the thing. If the Clippers have somebody to get the ball into the half court, Chris Paul doesn't need to be ball dominant. It's just getting shooters open. Norman Powell will work. He'll get Norman Powell open. Whatever Morris twins on the team, he'll get them open for open shots as well, too. Terrence Mann will be able to find open shots. You're not asking Chris Paul to play 75 games, 60 games, because guess what? Your other two star players don't do it either. So you just wanted to make sure they're all not hurt at the same time. It's kind of the same thing with Phoenix. Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant have real serious injury issues. They have not been healthy. Mm-hmm. Phoenix's whole idea is, as long as one or two of you guys are on the court, we're A-okay until the playoffs where we need you all to be on the court. It's funny. Yusef Nurkic had a great comment on Twitter saying that the Phoenix Suns are basically Brooklyn all over again. But no, I think to go back to the original question, I think Chris Paul's best chance to be would be the actual LA Clippers. Ty Lue's a point guard, and you give Ty Lue really good players around him. Ty Lue knows how to coach. Let people act like he can't coach. He's really a really good X's and O's coach. You give him a coach with a coach on the floor in Chris Paul, and you take some of that responsibility of playmaking out of Kawhi Leonard's hands because you can't give him too many tasks because, as Megan knows, we all know he has the injury history. You don't want to put too much on Kawhi. Let Kawhi play defense and score when he has to. You don't want to put down Paul George because Paul George is Paul George. If you could extend this out further, the Clippers are more dangerous because the Clippers also have more pieces around them than the Lakers. The Lakers are uncertain. If Chris Paul gets traded, it's going to be the LA Clippers. We all know it's going to be Clippers because the Clippers are going to take it on. And the Clippers would do it just to make sure that Chris Paul doesn't share a locker room with LeBron James. Okay? We might end up getting Team Banana Boat in the wrong way. Carmelo and Wade are retired, and Chris Paul and LeBron will end up together at the end of their career. No, his best bet to win will be with the Clippers more than the Lakers.
Okay. All right. I dig it. I dig it. I dig it. All right. So, a couple more questions for you because I want to get your thoughts on this. Um, let's talk about Ja Morant. So obviously, if you've been paying attention to this saga has been going on since last year. Actually, lots of reports came out this year of activity from last year of Ja being involved in multiple incidents, all leading up to several suspensions. Now this is now his second suspension. I think the first was 8 games. This is now 25 games for his off the court behavior in violations of the league's conduct policy. So my question to you, Danny, I'll start off with you. Did he get off easy?
Yes. Gilbert got games for bringing the gun into the district. Okay. He got 50 games for bringing the gun to the district and told his teammate which gun you want me to shoot him with. All right. Ja got off easy. The only difference is that Ja is going to get destroyed in the pockets. So, because he did not get All NBA, which is one thing. 2, because he missed last season in the games, he didn't get the All NBA, which lost the $40 million that he was supposed to get in the contract extension this year. So if you want to say, did he get hit in the pocket? He sure did. He got manhandled in the pocket. All right. He lost almost a year's worth of salary because of this. But if you look at the hindsight, the 2020 part of it, if you look at his suspension, he's only losing $7.5 million out of the suspension because the NBA only taxes you a certain amount. I think it's 1/44th because of the number of games he's missing. So it equates over $304,000 a game, which is $7.5 million for 25 games. So remember, fans, it's not about how much he makes per game divided by the number of games. It's a certain percentage they take. All right. 25 games, yes, he's going to miss All NBA. He's going to miss all the awards. He'll probably miss the All-Star team. He should have got more. Because here's the thing. He got off lucky because the NBA already technically let him get away with it the first time. He was sent away to go do what he had to do. You violated this thing 2 months later. You said you were a changed man, and you did the same thing again. They should have threw the book at him. I say Arenas got 50. Javaris Critton got 38. People bring up Miles Bridges' suspension being 30 games. Hindsight, Miles Bridges only got 10 games. He didn't get 30. He got 10. Why do I say 10? Because they retroacted 20 games on the suspension for this season. Oh, by the way, Miles Bridges played 0 minutes this season on nobody's roster. So what game checks was he missing because of that? So 25 is light. He got lucky. I was expecting 50. Mm-hmm. I was expecting Adam Silver to throw the book at him. But I guess the only book that was thrown at him was Ja Morant's checkbook instead of the games book.
That is a bar. Kev, what you got, my man?
I have to agree here again with Danny. I think Ja did get off lucky. Honestly, I expected at the very least him to be out and, up until the All-Star break. I don't know the exact game, break of how many games that would have been, but no, 25 games. I mean, obviously it's substantial. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he's suspended from all team activities up until that point, right? So he won't be able to do things with the team. I don't know.
He's allowed in the building. He is.
Oh, he is allowed in the building. Okay.
They allow him in the building. He just can't practice with the team. I think he can be with the team in team facilities. I don't think he can do anything working out wise, but I think just to help him, with that, having that team camaraderie, they didn't suspend him from everything. I think he can still be in the building. He just can't do anything like physically on the court with the team. Which
honestly, that's probably good. As if rehabilitation is the goal here, actually giving him time with his teammates is probably a good idea.
Yes.
I do think he got off easy with that suspension for all the reasons that Danny mentioned. The other caveat, I guess, that I will add here as far as it goes for the Grizzlies, with him missing those team workouts and those team practices, it's now going to be on Ja to do the work on his own to stay in shape, to be ready. That 25 games, I think it's going to be longer. What's the actuality that game 26, he's out there starting, playing 38 minutes. It's all going to depend on what happens between now and then. So he has said it once before that, he learned his lesson and he was changed. Now is yet another opportunity. I can bet, I feel pretty confidently that the book will be thrown at him if something happens again between now and then. I can't imagine there being any sort of leniency. So I really hope and pray that he just takes the opportunity to get in shape, stay in shape, because the team's going to need him. I mean, the Grizzlies play well without Ja, but, to get where they might want to go, they're going to need him to be ready to go by game 30. So he's hopefully going to be doing nothing but basketball-related things for the next few months.
I mean, he gets personal time with his trainer. He gets to do those things. I think, being in a sanctuary. I think one of the things that hopefully he learns the suspension is that you might have to change your circle. And I think that's one of the things, taking advice from Carmelo Anthony. He has said that the thing that saved his career was changing his circle, and realizing that, a lot of the circle that you're around does dictate your future and dictate everything else. But a lot of those people aren't going to be there for you at the end of the day, and you have to realize that it's a hard reality. It's something that athletes have to deal with all the time, because it's the people you grow up with, the people that are around you, people that you meet, that you want to take care of everybody. And that's something the general public don't give athletes grace for, because that's what they have to go through. We struggle with losing a friend for 5 years. We count our number of friends on one hand most cases. Like, if I lose Meg tomorrow, I'm gonna be hurt because I lost Meg. But for these athletes, imagine, they're your friends and you have to get rid of them. It's not, you can't really make friends that easily. It's not as simple as people make it out to be. But Ja has to change his circle. Ja has to change himself, and he has a daughter, and that's the other part. So hopefully all of this matures Ja into a better person, a much more better headspace. And when he comes back and he's purely cleansed, listen, he's still one of the 5 most talented players in the league when he's healthy. I can only imagine what the Western Conference will be like when he gets back.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I would agree with both of you in the fact that I do think that he got off easy. I'm with you, Danny. I thought easily 50 games would be where Silver started. One of my friends said something the other day, and I think it might make sense here in this circumstance, was that, Silver's having compassion for Ja, in this moment for him to really kind of get himself together. Cause I think that 25 games says, all right, my friend, like, hey, I'm going to take it easy on you here, but next time won't be, you might not be as lucky here. And I think that you saw that with the 8 games and then the 25 games or whatever else. It's very kind of like, hey, you need to get yourself together, sort of thing. I think for Ja, he is immensely talented. Immensely talented, and I want him to succeed. The NBA is much better with him in it. He is dynamic on the court, and people, I mean, the Grizzlies organization, that team, I mean, they are a force to be reckoned with when he is there. And I think he's got to realize what opportunities he has in front of him. So I think that's extremely important for him. So I just saw Paris's comment. He said, I'm calling him by his government name, Demetrius, until further notice.
Listen, I mean, you really can't. I mean, that's what his name is on the government. I mean, is Mama call him Clay? I'm gonna call him Clay, is what they say. Going to America, I guess is where we're going with this. Thanks, Parrish.
Yeah, thank you, Parrish, for that. All right, last question of this segment is actually about Draymond Green. So Draymond Green has declined his player option for 2023 through 2024. That is about roughly 27 mil, which is quite a substantial number. The question for you guys is, should he move on from Steph Curry and the Warriors? And Danny, I'm going to start with you.
He won't be valued as much in any other place than he would be in Golden State. He won't be valued as much because Draymond Green is the only player in the league that can score 8 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and be more important to be the second most important player on the court at all times. This is the only place he can do it in. You average 8 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists a game on 29 other teams. You are getting the book thrown at you. So it's best for him to be a member of the Golden State Warriors. I get it. The only thing I'm worried about is with the change in the GM-ship, with Bob Myers gone and Mike Dunleavy Jr. in charge, I wonder, because I still think, I know Bob says he wants to be with his family, he wanted to do more family things. I don't think Bob Myers wanted the blood of his hands of blowing this thing up. He built it. I don't think he wanted to take it apart. Mm-hmm. I don't think he wanted no part of that. Can you be the one to say that you might have to trade Steph Curry? Can you be the one to say you broke up the Splash Brothers? You built the Splash Brothers. Now you have to break them apart?
I don't know. A year vacation does sound a lot better than that.
I mean, listen.
It's not like he wouldn't get a job next year if he decides.
He could have had a job. I think he left on Wednesday. He could have had a job by 2:52 on Thursday if he wanted to. ESPN wanted him at one point. So listen, Bob Myers can go get a job pretty much. He could replace almost any GM in the league. I don't think he wanted to take this thing apart. Mm-hmm. And Draymond, this whole Draymond situation will determine how they're going to treat the Golden State Warriors. If they re-sign Draymond Green and they put the time frame out for the contract to be the same ending as Steph Curry's, this thing will blow up when they're all contracts all in together. Otherwise, if Dre doesn't come back, expect Klay Thompson to be moved right after that, and then Steph Curry is looking like Will Smith in that last episode of Fresh Prince, wondering where is everybody around him at this point.
Kev, what you got?
Oh, I like a lot of that. So I want to say I believe I believe Draymond's going to stay put. One of the funny things that happened when this announcement came out in the Last Word on Sports. So shameless plug, I'm an editor for Last Word on Sports covering college and NBA.
Oh.
So
those are my people over there. So yes, I knew I liked you for some reason.
Hey, thank you. Yes, absolutely. So our group chat immediately blew up with someone shared, hey, did you guys see that Draymond was out at dinner with LeBron over the weekend? And I'm just like, hang on, Lakers fans. First of all, Lakers fans don't want Draymond for the reasons that Danny suggested. I see what you guys do on Twitter. You're not going to like Draymond the first time he only has 8 points and 6 assists because you're not going to be able to appreciate all the times he made sure that Reeves was in his right spot defensively or this or that. All those little nuanced things that Draymond does might not be as appreciated as you've already pointed out. So there are some teams, like if I start to fantasy GM this, where I'm like, oh, would I love to see Draymond in Milwaukee or something like that? Like, yeah, that sounds great to me. I think there are a ton of teams where he could immediately go in, add some front court depth. And it's like having a second coach out there on the field, the court, at least defensively. And he's a good passer as well. So I do think he's a valuable asset. I don't know money wise what sort of deal he's going to demand in the market, but my personal opinion on this is I think he did this so that he could restructure and give the Warriors a better chance to put together a winning roster this year, unless we see them blow it up. But for some reason, I don't think they want to blow it up yet.
I mean, at some point, it's going to have to happen. Like, that's the point. It's going to have to happen at some point. Do you do it now or you do it later? And do you really believe that this core can win another championship? Do you believe that Steph Curry, that Jordan Poole and Draymond Green can get over it? Can you believe any of that at this point? You know, they even said that, they never got over Jordan Poole getting punched in the face in preseason. And Dre tried all season to try and make it work, but it didn't. That's the real question. Steve Kerr's got a lot to deal with. This was not easy for Steve Kerr. This was supposed to be a cakewalk, but it wasn't.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I told my I think Danny will be back in just a moment here. So, but I told my husband that I think Draymond Green could walk away. I think they could dismantle this whole entire team all at once. And I think the reasoning for that is I watched this Warriors team struggle in the playoffs, unlike what I had seen before. Teams that that the Warriors could have like beaten in their sleep, that sort of thing. And so it made me start to wonder, is the magic finally wearing off for the Warriors? This kind of Splash Brothers, the defense, just their inability to just absolutely shred their opponents. I really wonder if the time is gone, and with Bob Meyer stepping away, really made me think like, yeah, I think that the end is coming sooner than we think. And now with Draymond declining his option, because I mean, I'm gonna be really honest with you, I never saw that necessarily coming, because I'm like, he's gonna be a Warrior. Like, what are we talking about here? But I think at this point, it's possible that he could walk away and be like, hey, I'm done here. And that ends that kind of era. I mean, as a Spurs fan, I'm not going to be upset if that happens. I just want to point that out there.
But Meg, Meg, just not cut you off, but I'm gonna tell you this: if Steve Kerr walks away tomorrow, you know where he's going to end up?
In San Antonio. Yeah,
he's going to take over Pop in San Antonio.
I mean, I'm not going to be mad at that. Like, I'm not going to be mad.
I mean, you stole Wemby, so I mean,
Spurs legend.
Stole is really, really strong. And I thought we weren't even going to talk draft. I mean, you're going to make me get all excited about Thursday. But I do think that, this I would, antennas are up about Draymond, declining his option. We'll see what happens or whatever else. But I do think it's worth, it was worth mentioning here on the podcast while we had the experts to talk about basketball.
Also, I think what might happen is Draymond Green might pull the Al Horford, meaning that he had more guaranteed money, but he turned around to go longer. I think that it was $27 million with what he got this year. I think if he goes through Steph Curry's contract, I think he goes 3 for 65. It saves him a lot more money. And I'll be honest with you, I think Dre will take less money up front and stagger this thing out further. That way the luxury tax bill won't be as bad, and he's going to do the franchise a solid.
Now that's also very possible as well. I think, just for me, I was just telling Kev that I really think that it's very possible that the magic is kind of wearing off for the Warriors. You're starting to see this unraveling at the ends where they're not as put together as they normally are. But again, I'm a lowly Spurs fan, so, wishful thinking. But we'll see what happens. All right, so we've reserved the final portion of the show for our favorite portion, and this is called the post-game presser. So this is the portion of the show where we get to ask our guests questions, our guests get to ask us questions, and we will answer them as truthfully as possible. Like I mentioned earlier, we've gotten some really good questions like, is cereal soup? What did Ben Troop ask? The question that I think it was are chicken nuggets are they just chicken tenders or something of that nature?
Like is there such a thing as a boneless chicken wing?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I think that was the question. But yes, we get questions like that. So I actually want to start this one because I've got a question for you, Danny, that I think you're gonna like. My question to you is, what is your favorite part about being a dad?
Favorite part of being a dad? Being a girl dad. My favorite part about just being a girl dad in general, not just a dad, a girl dad. It's weird because every man wants to have their own son and to have the junior, the third, or the fourth, the continuation. But when I found out I was having a girl, I felt like I was in a different fraternity. So it's like it's a different fraternity. I get to wear different, I get to step differently. I get to make a different noise during fraternity introductions. But I think being a girl dad's the best part of it. It's more than just doing hair and drinking tea and getting my nails done. It's the simple fact of I get to raise a young lady who's going to be a woman and be a successful woman in the society. So I get to teach her the things that I would have wanted, or I want to see in a qualified woman. I get to be able to mold that. And yeah, there are pitfalls. My daughter's 10. I haven't gotten to that part yet of life. But at this part, I would never trade in the world. If my wife and I are blessed to have another one, I'd rather have a girl more than have a boy. Don't tell my wife that because she wants a son. So, she might be watching this later. Oh shit.
Yes, if Danny's wife, if you're watching this, just cover your ears. Cover your eyes. Skip forward to this, next question. All right, what you got for us? We're happy to answer questions.
All right, so here's my first question. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Kev, I'm letting you answer that one first.
Oh man, I I believe I sit on the yes end with this one. Hot dogs, sausages. It's in a bun, right? So I guess it's technically a sandwich, especially if you get them like Chicago style. I mean, there's enough vegetables on that thing to be a sandwich. So I don't know. I will say yes, a hot dog sandwich for me.
I'm gonna say no. A hot dog is a hot dog. I don't know what else it is, but it's just a hot dog, and I can't qualify it as a sandwich. So it's just.
I mean, I'm the guy who said cereal was soup, so just.
I mean, I also
I'm
said
nobody's
cereal.
litmus test. Yeah.
I also said cereal was soup. So,
I've never heard of Campbell's Lucky Charms. We're not doing this.
So we had Ben Troop on a couple weeks ago, and Ben's first question was out the gate. He was like, "Is cereal soup?" And I was like, "What? Like, what are you even talking about?" Like, I've never thought to ask myself that question. And after that, I was profoundly like thoughtful. And yeah, Kev and I were stumped like for at least a solid 20 seconds before we finally were like, "Yes, we think so." Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Checks, I mean, but
I'm on the fence that a hot dog is a hot dog.
All right. So, second question: peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Are the peanut butter supposed to be separated, or is the peanut butter and jelly mixed together? So do you mix it or you keep it separate?
What kind of monster mixes their peanut butter and jelly like that? Like it is separate sides. One side for the peanut butter, one side for the jelly, and they come together in harmonious glory. That's how that works.
Agreed. See, now back when I was making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, it was in my younger days and I needed a little more calories to keep up. So I was making 2 at a time. So I needed one knife just for the peanut butter, one knife just for the jelly. Line them up, set them down, and then we're ready to go.
No, you mix it together like the song says, ebony and ivory in pure harmony. You got to put it together.
Listen, I need equal amounts. I can't put my jelly down and then like try to like swerve. No, it's just too much.
I feel like didn't Smucker's market this? Did they not like put peanut butter and jelly
it's in a bottle.
Yeah.
There's peanut butter on one side, jelly on the other, and you squirt it, and you could put it together. But
you get to change the complexity of the sandwich. Because it's like making Kool-Aid. You can put too much sugar in it. You can put a light enough sugar in it. You can make your own version of Crystal Light at home with peanut butter and jelly.
Paris says, doesn't matter, but have y'all tried grilled PB&J? I have absolutely not, and that sounds disgusting.
Yes, and it's good. Now I kind of need to write that down to make
grilled
one of those here
PB&J sounds so gross. Warm peanut butter? Oh my God.
You said you want it separate?
I mean, I'm thinking about like putting together a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and be like, yeah, tell my husband, slap that baby on the grill. Like what?
Like I get a flat top, like you grill a cheese,
like a panini press, a panini peanut butter and jelly. Oh my gosh!
I've seen a lot of stuff being done with waffle makers lately, so I don't know. Just waffle your PB&J.
Oh my gosh!
There's nothing wrong with that.
Oh my Lord!
Somebody eating waffle and oatmeal cream pie. Now my only thought was I have to buy a waffle maker now.
Paris says we should throw it on the George Foreman grill.
See? I mean, who still got one of those?
I had one of those for years and years before I met my husband. I was a single lady trying to survive, and so George Foreman and I were best friends for many a days.
Oh yeah, George got me through college for sure.
Right?
Yeah. But I don't want to go into how long ago that was. But yeah.
All right, last question about last post game press question for me, guys. Okay. So in the game of, we're going to refer back to cereal. In the game of making cereal, do you put the milk in first or do you put the cereal in first?
Cereal first for me.
Yeah, I feel like that's the only logical.
Unless it's my second bowl. All right, because second bowl you have no. Now I'm not much of a cereal eater these days, but back in my prime when I would eat cereal for lunch or whatever, first bowl cereal goes in, then the milk goes in. If you eat all that cereal and you realize it's time for round 2. Then you can put some dry cereal on top, but you're going to want to splash a little bit of fresh milk on that because otherwise you got nothing but dry cereal just floating on top of your bowl.
I would agree. Cereal first, milk on top. If you go back for a second bowl, then you could just, add to whatever you've got there. But I feel like it would be really awkward for me to pour my milk in first because then I would just be guessing at how much milk I need. And I don't like that. So I would rather just cereal first and then, wait till it rises and go on about my day.
Cowboy fans do it that way. That's why I was asking the question.
All right. I see what you've done. I was not familiar with your game, but now I am. All right. I actually really like those because those were all food related. And those were good questions. Those are really good. I like those. All right.
I got one for you, Danny. What's the best movie you've seen in, I don't know how frequently you go see movies, so insert whatever time period that works for you. But what's your
so current movie? I went to go see Elemental actually yesterday.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Elemental. You listen. I don't know what the hell Pixar is doing with these movies, but they know how to strike nerves when you're watching these movies nowadays. They try to hit you in the feels. And so I'm in the theater. It's me, my wife, and my daughter, and we're watching the movie. I'm not going to give it away, but there's like two scenes in the movie, and I'm looking like, this is supposed to be a kids movie. Why am I in my feelings here? Like, why are we even doing this? But outside of that, favorite movie. Okay, so I have to give a top 5 because I have too many movies I watch all the time.
I feel that.
Let's do it.
New Jack City.
Oh, okay.
It's a classic. A Bronx Tale.
Okay.
Now it's time for the curveball. My best friend's wedding.
Okay.
It's about a sports writer. So what can I say?
Okay. All right.
I know. Listen, I don't know. My wife watches The Notebook. Don't blame me for that one.
Notebook is a really good movie, though.
It's trash. Talladega Nights.
Oh, Ricky Bobby.
Yes.
And I think the other movie is a tie between Step Brothers, which you literally can't get past. And I might be in the minority when I say this, but the original John Wick movie.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So that's an interesting collection of movies. Like I was not.
That'd be a good, like, what do they say? The Stranded Island. You have to make your list of like the 5 movies. That'd be good. You've got some range there. You've got some variety.
You have to. Honorable mention was Booty Call and Life. So
those are both good movies. Good movies. All right, Kev, I'm gonna ask you to answer that same question. Top 5 movies.
Ooh, okay. All right. So that one's tough. I'm gonna try to follow suit and make sure I hit a couple of different ones. We're gonna start with The Thing because that is my favorite horror movie and in general just my favorite movie. Big John Carpenter fan. I loved like that. If you've seen that movie, the scene where they all have to spoiler alert, sorry, but they all have to test everyone's blood to figure out who the Thing is. So they're heating up this little coil, and just the tension in the way they slowly build that scene is just phenomenal. I also, to keep it in the horror, let's just say The Shining, because I'm a big Stanley Kubrick fan. I'd be hard for me to pick just one, so I'll just say that one.
Okay.
Let's see. Comedy wise, this is a bit of a guilty pleasure one for me. It might not actually be in my top 5, but it's a fun one that a lot of people forget. I grew up watching Grandma's Boy. It was a Happy Madison film with about game developers in like the mid 2000s, something like that. Yeah, I love that movie
so much. It's a slept on movie. It's very slept on.
Yes. Oh man, and I can't remember the other one that I love, another comedy in that vein, Slackers. Devin Sawa. I can't remember who played Cool Ethan.
I think it was Kevin Smith in that movie, right?
Say what?
Wasn't Kevin Smith in that movie?
I don't know. It was the guy from Forgetting Sarah Marshall. The main guy from that, he's in it. I can't remember his name.
I know who you're talking about, and I can't think of his name.
I believe Laura Prepon from that 70s show.
Jason something? I feel
Jason
like
Segel. There you go.
Yes, there you go. Yeah.
Yep, he was in it. Devin Sawa, the Ethan Schwartzman from Bored to Death. plays cool Ethan, plays like the antagonist. It's a great little story about college shysters who cheat, and then they have to find a reason to actually care. Classic late 90s, early 2000s flicks. I don't want to use the word. We know there was a certain word that I can't use here, but
yes, I
you got what we're saying. But yeah, did I hit 5? I don't know.
I think that was 5. There might be more,
good.
but it was good.
4.
It was good.
Throw a Batman in there, a Chris Nolan Batman.
Okay. All right.
Dark Knight, okay.
Well, you just stole one of mine.
I'm so sorry.
All right. So Forrest Gump. That is my all-time favorite movie. So Forrest Gump, Coming to America is definitely in there. Sister Act 2.
Oh yes.
Ooh.
That's good.
Sister Act 2. It's a really good one. I would say definitely Dark Knight. Yeah, phenomenal. I'm gonna do, because I'm giving different genres. I'm gonna say Bad Boys 2. That's my like that out of the series, out of the trilogy there. Like I love that one. If I have to give honorable mentions, I'm really big on like there's some kids movies I like. So Finding Nemo and Despicable Me are in that range. But yeah, those are definitely like top 5. I've seen those movies way too many times to count. And can probably go line for line, bar for bar in those movies and say all the lines. So
actually no, now I have one additional question.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite song that people would not think is your favorite? Just by looking at it.
I'll give you one. So it's Ain't It Fun by Paramore. So people wouldn't pick that one up, and it's a phenomenal song. The other one, the second one is Can We Talk by Tevin Campbell.
So you sung that song as a child.
I did. And if you see my like iTunes now, like I've got plenty of music from, we'll say now, but what do I listen to the most? My 90s like R&B pop music. So I've got all the kinds of Tevin Campbell's and Boyz II Men's and Aaliyah's and Destiny's Child and all that. And then I've got NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and like, yeah, I've got all that kind of like going on all the time. So half the time I growing up, I would be texting my brother who's a couple years younger than me. Hey, who's this kid who just came on? Like, I don't even know who this guy is. Cause I would be listening to this playlist on repeat, nostalgic. So yeah. Yeah.
For
Kev,
me,
what you got?
I would say, well, I can't say Creed with Arms Wide Open because I used that one last week, so no one would be surprised by it. So what I will say, a lot of people are surprised when they hear about the first CD that I ever owned, and it was the 1989 soundtrack to Batman, which was done exclusively by the artist formerly known as Prince. So I am a huge freaking Prince fan, and people don't expect that from me.
I would not have. Okay.
That dance is a classic. It's an underrated classic.
I've never even seen Kev break out and dance.
Prince has his he's very special. So yeah, that's what usually catches people off guard. I still love that album.
I love it. What about you, Danny? What for your own question?
It's actually Jamiroquai's Virtual Insanity.
I would not.
My brother, I remember when that video first came out, I'm like, what is this? And my brother had bought the CD and was like, just listen to it. And it ended up being in my rotation for so long. It's still in my rotation now. I think if you have Apple Music, they do like your playlist for the year. Mm-hmm. And Jamiroquai had 5 of the top 100 on my playlist for the year. And Virtual Insanity was actually number 3 behind the other song that was, I'm going to say, is Harry Styles' As It Was.
I would not have picked that. That's good.
So there we go. So now we're done with your post-game pressers. You guys can go home and have some Gatorade.
I do have one more to add, which I didn't think about. But the other one is there's actually 2. Sorry, that I just thought about it. Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen.
Okay.
I played that in orchestra, like literally played that song with when I was in high school, so fell in love with the song. And then there's another song which you guys won't know this, but there's a song called Sky Life by a group called Turtle String Quartet. And I remembered that song like is yesterday because it's one of my favorites, a jazz kind of like arrangement or whatever else. And I will listen to that now, even though I don't play violin anymore, haven't played in years, and I'll be jamming out like Kev was just jamming out to Prince. So do with that information what you will. Of course, of course. All right, so we've come to the end of the podcast, Danny. We appreciate you for hanging out with us and giving us some of your time. This has been fun. It was really cool to see you just like kind of flip into basketball mode. You and Kev were in heaven. I see both your little eyes like lighting up, talking back and forth. I love it. We'll have to have you back on during the season to talk more basketball, because I'm sure there'll be more storylines to talk about. All right, so tell the people where they can find you on the internet.
Well, first and foremost, Meg and Kevin, it's been my pleasure to do this show, this pod tonight. I told Meg, off air, I was really happy that she brought me on the show, because I've been watching the pod. I've been watching Meg grow from the time I met her till now. She's grown exponentially in everything since I met her. I'm so proud of her. I'm so glad to be here to let her know on camera that I'm proud of her, so people actually can see that I'm not saying this. I'm saying this in person instead of behind the scenes. Kev, you were last word on sports, so you're now part of the family, because I know the folks over there, and they do such good work. So it's good to be able to connect more different worlds. And you can find my work on Substack. I do have my own Substack, which is called The Wonderful World of Data. Since we did not talk NBA draft, the good news is I dropped my first and only NBA mock draft. I dropped it about 2 hours ago. And so this mock draft is actually different than ones I've done in the past. My Substack is really it's an ode to data. As I transition from being a day-to-day beat writer, talking about games, I'm looking at things from a data analytics standpoint, because guess what? Everybody really doesn't like data in basketball. Well, I got the idea. I was going through a little bit of a funk story. And my wife loves to ear hustle. She loves to ear hustle my sports conversations, because she's getting into sports. She's married to me now. She's stuck with me. There's no takebacks in the situation. We're tattooed together. Ain't no takebacks. So she was trying to understand certain things about the NBA when I'm talking about data. So I woke up one night. This is when Kevin Love actually signed with the Miami Heat, and I wrote an article about why is Kevin Love important, which it actually was relevant throughout the entire playoffs. It's the corner 3-point shooting. Mm-hmm. Kevin Love's spot ability in corner 3-point shooting is what the Heat didn't have. They were the worst team in the NBA when they signed him. And so I wrote it, and I tried to break it down in words so my wife would understand. My wife's extremely intelligent, but when it comes to basketball knowledge, if she doesn't really know it, she doesn't know it. So I wrote it, I published it, I posted it, and she read it, and she goes, "Hey, so you're telling me that Miami needed Kevin Love because none of the guys can shoot from the corners, and Kevin Love does this percentage, this percentage, this percentage." I was like, well, damn, it worked. She finally figured it out. So I write things with her in mind. So I because she's the common basketball fan. So I try to break down data analytics, all the advanced stats in ways where people can understand them by using real world terms. I explained 4 factors, for example, by using the Knicks playoff conundrum in their starting lineup against the Miami Heat. I talked about Nick Nurse and the importance of offensive rebounding with his addition to the Philadelphia 76ers, because they were trash under Doc Rivers rebounding the basketball. I talked about Jamal Murray in the playoffs, how his elevation of mid-range turned him from where he is to a superstar in the NBA, and we saw what happened in the finals. So my mock draft was basically a basketball fit / analytical fit at the same time. So I did look at it from a basketball perspective, but I also did an analytical standpoint behind it, and threw some things in there that you might not know about players or might not know about the teams they're being drafted to. So I want to see how accurate it is tomorrow. So if you don't like it, I hate to say it. And yes, Meg, we're going to say the obvious is there. Okay, you stole the first pick. You stole the first pick. All right.
Just had to make sure.
You stole the first pick, okay? The same way the Pelicans stole Anthony Davis from the Hornets, the same way the ping pong balls have never fallen in the Hornets' favor. we don't get nice things, and so yeah, it's your fault. Okay.
I mean, to be fair, the Spurs hadn't had anything since 1997. I just,
the Hornets have never picked first.
well, okay,
Last time we picked first was Larry Johnson.
I'm still daydreaming. I'm not even a Pistons fan, and I was daydreaming about Ivy, Cunningham, and Wemby. I was like, oh, Thunder versus Pistons 2027 finals. Let's do it.
I'm sorry. You know what? The best face in the mock draft was watching Ben Wallace. When they showed Ben Wallace get the 5th overall pick, I really thought he was about to go after Mark Tatum. Right? I thought he was going full Bobby Boucher at the end of water.
Heated.
That's the wrong guy you want mad at you. Like Ben might be in his 50s, but like if I saw Ben Wallace mad, I think I'm walking the other way and I'm running.
Absolutely. Well, all right. So we'll have to have you come back. We'll break down the draft. We'll break down some more games, and we'll talk through that. We'll give you plenty of time, and we'll talk through. I'm going to say right now, my Spurs potentially drafting Wemby. So hey, I'm going to knock on every piece of wood that this happens, because I think y'all might have to come find me and check on me if it doesn't. All right, Kev, tell the people on the internet where they can find you.
Absolutely. And thanks again, Danny, for joining us. You can find my writing over at Last Word on Sports, again, covering NCAA and the NBA. Right now, we've been focusing heavily on the draft profiles, but we also have some free agent profiles and stuff coming up. So other than that, you can catch me live every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern on the Bite Size Sports Network on our little show called The Bounce, where James and I talk, well, nothing but hoops. And then be sure to subscribe to Bite Size Sports. Check out my other friends talking NFL, MLB, fantasy sports, all that stuff. So we also do some scripted things like of that nature. So check us out sometime. But when it's Tuesday nights, this is where I'm at, because this is where this is the place to be.
Of course. And thanks for hanging out with me as always. All right. So you can find Hall About Sports on Twitter. That's HallABT Sports. You can find it on YouTube, of course. It's at Hall About Sports. Also on the tick of the talk, as the kids say, it's Hall About Sports Pod, P-O-D. You can find my personal page on Twitter. It's at the Megan Hall, like the one and only Megan Hall, that way. Same thing on Instagram at the Megan Hall. Finally, all of our content is available on HallAboutSports.com. And Danny doesn't know this, but he inspired this brand. So shout out to him. He put a little bug in my ear back in April about, putting together a personal brand. And, lo and behold, I sat down one day and it just came to me and I said, darn it, Danny. But I was listening. I was paying attention when you said it to me. So, hey, here we are. This brand has been birthed. So kudos to you. Thank you for putting some fire underneath me to put this together. So, all right. You've been listening to the Hall About Sports podcast, where the sports are real, the stories are real. Well, actually, I think I said that wrong. See, that's how you know it's been a long day for me. Of course, the sports are real. The sounds of the game are real. And yes, the stories are real too. We'll see you next episode. Peace out.